Have you ever felt trapped in a routine, as if you couldn't move forward or overcome the challenges in your life? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to change your mindset to face challenges more effectively, take control of your life, and achieve what you truly want? If the answer is yes, today I'm going to share something that will completely change the way you see your life and the world around you. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that has helped great leaders like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, has the answers to those questions. This philosophy is not just theory, it's a set of practical principles you can apply every day to transform your mind and your life. And the best part is that you don't need to be a philosopher to practice it. You just need willpower and an open attitude to start applying these principles today. In this video, I'm going to share simple yet powerful steps based on Stoicism that will allow you to leave behind frustration, anxiety, and distractions. I'm sure that if you follow these lessons, you'll start noticing significant changes in your life from day one. Imagine waking up every morning with a clear mind, without the emotional weights that hold you back, ready to seize opportunities and face challenges with resilience and calm. So, if you're ready for a real and lasting change, stay with me until the end, because this video is not just another talk, it's a practical guide to transform your life. And remember, if you want more content to help you grow, subscribe, share, and comment, so we can keep learning together. Part 1. The power of the present. One of the biggest obstacles we face in life is the tendency to live in the past or the future. We get stuck in memories, regrets, and past mistakes, or we obsess over what might happen, what should happen, or what hasn't happened yet. In both cases, we're distancing ourselves from the only thing we can truly control, the present. Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, teach us that the present is the only real moment we have to take action. The past is gone, and the future is uncertain. The only thing you can change is what you do right now. Stoic philosophy encourages us to cultivate a mindset that is completely focused on the present. Instead of wasting emotional energy on what happened or what might happen, we can learn to channel that energy into the actions we take at this very moment. Seneca, for example, in his letters to Lucilius, reminds us that we should live as if each day were a gift, because ultimately, we don't know how much time we have left. He tells us that if we don't live in the present, we're really wasting the only thing we truly have, our time. Imagine how your life would change if you could let go of the emotional burdens of the past and the worries of the future. If, instead of reliving old mistakes, you decided to learn from them and focus on how you can improve now, or instead of fearing what's to come, you trusted that you can handle any challenge when it arises. Peace of mind and emotional peace come when we accept that we can't control everything, but we can decide how we respond to what happens in this very moment. The power of the present doesn't just refer to letting go of the past and the future, but to being completely present in whatever you're doing. Whether you're working, spending time with loved ones, or even doing a simple task, being fully present is an act of mental discipline. For Stoics, focus and mindfulness are fundamental. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us that we should focus on what's before us and do our best in that moment, without distractions or worries. Here's a simple practice to incorporate the power of the present into your life. Every time you feel overwhelmed by thoughts of the past or future, pause and focus on your breathing. Feel the air coming in and out of your lungs. Then direct your attention to the task at hand and give it all your energy. Do this with the awareness that this is the only moment you truly have, and it's all you need to move forward. Remember, the present is where action happens. It's where you can make wise decisions and take steps toward your personal growth. Embrace that power, because it's the only real power you have. If you can learn to live in the present, you'll be amazed at how your perspective, well-being, and ultimately your life will change. Part 2. Radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is one of the most powerful and transformative principles that Stoics teach us. In life, we constantly face situations that we cannot control. The behavior of other people, unexpected changes, challenges that arise without warning. However, our reaction to these events is what truly defines our life experience. Stoics, especially Epictetus, taught us that we must accept what we cannot change. This acceptance doesn't mean giving up or stopping the fight for what we want. It means freeing ourselves from unnecessary suffering that comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. When we fight against circumstances, we get trapped in a spiral of frustration and stress. If something doesn't go as we expected, if someone treats us in a way we don't like, or if life presents an obstacle we couldn't anticipate, our immediate reaction is usually negative. We feel anger, sadness, or resentment. But what if, instead of reacting with these intense emotions, we accepted the situation as it is? This doesn't mean being passive or complacent, but rather adopting a mindset where we understand that there are things beyond our control, and it's not worth wasting our energy on them. Radical acceptance is not an easy task. In our culture, we're often taught to fight against everything we don't like or that makes us uncomfortable. However, Stoics invite us to change our mindset. Instead of fighting against reality, let's accept it and even embrace it. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us that events are neither inherently good nor bad. They simply are. It's our interpretations that make them positive or negative. If we stop resisting what we cannot change, we eliminate a constant source of suffering and gain inner peace. The first step in practicing radical acceptance is observing our reactions. How do you respond when things don't go as planned? Do you get caught in frustration? Or are you able to step back and say, "This is what's happening and I can't change it. How can I learn from this?" This reflection can free you from the burden of unnecessary emotions and allow you to act from a place of serenity and clarity. Instead of spending energy on what you can't control, channel that energy into what you can, your response and how you choose to move forward. One of the best ways to incorporate radical acceptance into your life is to start practicing gratitude for whatever happens, even when circumstances aren't what you expected. Every situation, good or bad, offers a lesson, an opportunity to grow. If you can train your mind to see the value in every experience, you'll no longer see setbacks as obstacles, but as lessons that allow you to improve and strengthen yourself. Radical acceptance, then, is a way to free yourself from the emotional burden that drags you down and take control of your well-being. Instead of staying trapped in what you can't change, you empower yourself by focusing on what you can do. Change your attitude and your approach to any situation. Part 3. Practice gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools that Stoics recommend using to cultivate a fuller and more satisfying life. We live in a world that constantly reminds us of what we lack. More money, more success, more recognition. It's easy to fall into the trap of feeling that we never have enough. But Stoics teach us a radically different perspective. Instead of focusing on what we don't have, we should learn to deeply appreciate what we do possess. Gratitude not only changes our mindset, but also transforms our daily experience. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, often spoke about the importance of valuing what we have before we lose it. In his letters to Lucilius, he reminds us that life is short, and much of our suffering comes from not recognizing how fortunate we are for what we already have. Instead of always longing for something more, we must learn to be grateful for the small blessings that we often take for granted. Gratitude, according to Seneca, is not just a feeling. It is a daily practice that can radically transform our perspective and our life. Gratitude has a profound power because it changes the way we view difficulties. Instead of focusing on what we can't control, what we lack, or what bothers us, we begin to focus on the positive. This shift in focus not only improves our emotional well-being, but also allows us to be more resilient in the face of challenges. When we practice gratitude, we learn to see every situation, even the difficult ones, as an opportunity to grow and learn. Epictetus, another great Stoic, also spoke about how gratitude helps free us from anxiety and frustration. For him, our inner peace depends on our ability to appreciate what we have instead of worrying about what we don't have. The key, according to Epictetus, is training our mind to see what is right in our life instead of focusing only on what is wrong. This constant practice of gratitude is like a muscle. The more we exercise it, the more natural it becomes. Incorporating gratitude into our daily life doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, it's quite simple and can have an immediate impact on how we feel. One of the most effective ways to start practicing gratitude is by keeping a journal. Every night, before you go to bed, write down 3 things you are grateful for. They can be small things, like a delicious meal, an inspiring conversation, or simply being alive. By focusing on these small blessings, we begin to cultivate an attitude of gratitude that changes our way of seeing the world. Additionally, gratitude also helps us improve our relationships. When we are grateful, we not only improve our own mindset, but we also create a positive environment around us. People respond to gratitude, and our grateful attitude can inspire others to do the same. In this way, gratitude becomes a virtuous cycle that benefits both our own life and that of those around us. So, The next time you find yourself caught up in negative thoughts or feeling like something is missing, remember that gratitude is a powerful tool. Practice it every day, and you will see how your perspective on life begins to change. You will be amazed at what a simple shift in focus can do for your well-being and happiness. Part 4. The control of thoughts. The control of thoughts is one of the most crucial aspects of Stoicism, as it lies at the heart of how we respond to the world around us. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, taught us that it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of those events. In other words, the control of our mind is what determines our inner peace. If we manage to take control of our thoughts, we can change our response to any situation. We live in a world full of stimuli, emotions, and constant thoughts. Often we let our emotions guide us without questioning them, reacting impulsively to what we feel. However, Stoics teach us that we must be aware of our reactions and not let negative thoughts take control. According to Epictetus, the first step to changing our life is to understand that we can't control everything that happens, but we can control how we choose to react to what happens. Imagine someone insults you or treats you unfairly. Your initial reaction might be anger, frustration, or sadness, but according to Stoic principles, you have the power to choose how to respond. You can choose not to be carried away by anger and instead opt to stay calm. This is not a skill that comes naturally, but a discipline that requires practice. The key is to realize that you are not a slave to your thoughts. You can observe them, question them, and ultimately change the way you interpret them. One practical way to apply this principle is through the technique known as dissociation of thoughts. This involves pausing before reacting to a negative emotion. If you feel anger, sadness, or frustration, instead of letting those feelings take control, pause, take a deep breath, and observe what you're feeling. Then ask, is this thought helpful? Is this thought based on reality? Often we realize that our emotions are automatic responses to distorted or negative thoughts, which are mostly not aligned with the truth. Stoics also encourage us to practice negative visualization, a technique where we imagine the worst that could happen in a situation. If you're facing a challenge, you can mentally visualize the worst-case scenarios. This isn't about falling into negativity, but about mentally preparing yourself to accept any outcome. By anticipating difficulties, you can reduce the emotional impact when things don't go as you expected. Negative visualization also helps put into perspective what really matters, allowing you to remain calm in the face of what might seem like an insurmountable challenge. The control of thoughts doesn't mean repressing or ignoring emotions, but rather learning to manage them effectively. Instead of letting your negative thoughts control you, Stoics invite us to be conscious observers of them. Over time, this practice strengthens our emotional resilience and our ability to remain calm in any situation. Finally, one of the most powerful principles Stoics teach us is that we are responsible for our mind. What we think and how we think is a choice. No one else has the power to decide for us what we should feel or think. If we learn to take control of our thoughts, we can change our life experience and own our inner peace. Part 5. Action without waiting for perfection. One of the most common traps we fall into is the pursuit of perfection. We live in a society that constantly tells us we must be perfect in everything we do. In our work, in our relationships, in our appearance, in our lives in general. This pressure to be perfect can create paralysis, a sense that we're never prepared or capable enough to act. Stoics, however, offer us a radically different perspective. It's not about waiting for perfection, but acting, even when we don't have all the answers or ideal conditions. Epictetus, one of the pillars of Stoicism, taught us that perfection is an illusion. According to him, true wisdom isn't about waiting for everything to align perfectly, but about doing the best we can with what we have in the present moment. Action is what matters, not perfection. If we wait for the perfect moment, the ideal moment, or the ideal state, we are condemning ourselves to procrastination and inaction. Life doesn't wait for us, and time keeps moving, with or without our participation. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, also emphasizes the importance of action. He reminds us that if we have a task ahead, we should focus on doing the best we can with the circumstances we have, without obsessing over the results. Life isn't about doing things perfectly, but about doing them with integrity and dedication. If we apply this mindset, we not only overcome perfection paralysis, but we also free ourselves from the pressure of being the best in everything we undertake. The pursuit of perfection often leads us to procrastination. We think that if we can't do something perfectly, it's better not to do it at all. But what Stoics teach us is that action is always the first step. Even if we're not sure if our action will be perfect, or if the outcome will be what we expect, what really matters is that we take action. If we make mistakes, we learn from them, and if we get good results, we celebrate the victory. The important thing is not to get stuck in indecision paralysis. How can we apply this idea in everyday life? The key is to start. If you have a task that seems overwhelming, don't focus on doing it perfectly. Just take the first step. If you're writing a book, don't worry about the perfection of every word. If you're starting a project, don't get paralyzed by fear of failure. Start with what you have, and over time you will adjust and perfect as you go. Continuous action and constant improvement are far more powerful than waiting for a perfect moment that will never come. It's important to remember that life is a process, and the process involves making mistakes, learning, and moving forward. Stoics didn't see failure as something negative, but as an opportunity for growth. When you act without waiting for perfection, you stop fearing mistakes and instead see them as a natural part of your evolution. This not only makes you more productive, but also more resilient and capable of facing challenges with a positive mindset. So, instead of waiting for everything to be perfect, start now. Take that and do the best you can with the resources and knowledge you have at this moment. Don't worry about the final outcome, focus on the action, and you will see how, over time, you improve and evolve. Part 6. The power of resilience. Resilience is one of the most valued qualities within Stoicism. In life, we all face difficulties, losses, failures, unexpected challenges. However, what truly defines our well-being is not the adversities themselves, but our ability to adapt to them and move forward. The Stoics understood that difficulties are not an obstacle to our inner peace, but an opportunity to exercise our mental strength. According to Stoic principles, resilience is the ability to maintain our serenity and composure even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, is one of the most powerful examples of resilience in history. In his meditations, he constantly reminds us that life is full of difficulties, but we must not allow these to control us. Instead of lamenting what we cannot change, we must do everything we can to adapt and grow through adversity. For the Stoics, resilience does not mean ignoring pain or suffering, but learning to accept them as an inevitable part of life and moving forward with dignity. One key to developing resilience is cultivating a mindset of radical acceptance, as mentioned earlier. Accepting that difficulties are a part of life and that we cannot always control them is the first step in strengthening our resilience. When facing a difficult situation, the first impulse may be to resist it, fight against adversity, or try to change what is beyond our control. However, the Stoics teach us that this only causes additional suffering. Instead of resisting, we must accept the situation as it is, without giving up, but with the awareness that the only thing we can control is our response to it. A good exercise to strengthen Stoic resilience is the practice of negative visualization, where you imagine the worst-case scenario. This is not about falling into pessimism, but preparing yourself mentally for what could happen. By doing this, you become less vulnerable to surprises and can handle difficult moments better when they actually happen. If you anticipate challenges, you won't feel as overwhelmed when they come your way. Another way to develop resilience is to focus on what is within our control and not on what is outside of it. Life is full of uncertainties, but we can take action regarding what is up to us. While we cannot avoid tragedies, losses, or failures, we can decide how we recover from them. We can choose to move forward, learn from the experience, and use it to strengthen ourselves. Resilience is not about never falling, but about getting up every time we do. Stoic resilience is also nurtured by self-compassion. Often, when facing difficulties, we tend to be hard on ourselves, judging ourselves for not being able to avoid the pain or loss. However, the Stoics invite us to be kinder to ourselves in those moments, recognizing that suffering is part of the human experience and that we all face adversities. Learning to treat ourselves with compassion during difficult times not only strengthens our resilience, but also allows us to move forward with a calmer and more balanced spirit. Resilience is ultimately a practice. It is not something that just happens overnight, but a skill that we develop over time through the continuous practice of acceptance, reflection, and action. If you are facing a challenge, remember that you have the power to choose how to respond. You can choose to be resilient, get up every time you fall, and come out stronger with every difficulty. Part 7. The wisdom of saying no. In a world that constantly asks for more work, more commitments, more responsibilities. One of the biggest challenges we face is learning to say no. Modern culture teaches us to be people pleasers, to accept all the opportunities and demands that come our way, with the idea that saying yes is the only way to advance or be a valuable person. However, the Stoics teach us that knowing how to say no is one of the most powerful skills we can develop to live a focused, balanced, and purposeful life. Seneca, one of the most prominent philosophers of Stoicism, wrote extensively about the importance of self-discipline and control over our lives. In his letters to Lucilius, he addressed the need to learn how to say no wisely, emphasizing that our life is limited and valuable. Every time we accept a request or commit to something, we are investing our time and energy, two of the most precious resources we have. If we are not selective with what we say yes to, we end up overloaded, distracted, and disconnected from what really matters. Constant yes can lead us to live reactively rather than proactively. When we commit to everything without reflecting on whether it truly aligns with our values or goals, we risk losing control over our own lives. By saying yes without questioning, we give power to external demands, and we lose the power to decide how we want to live. This is why learning to say no is an act of self-leadership. Saying no does not mean being selfish or insensitive, but being aware of our own limitations and prioritizing what truly matters. The Stoic wisdom lies in understanding that we cannot do everything, and not everything that comes our way is truly valuable or beneficial for us. Saying no is an act of wisdom because it allows us to protect our energy and attention for the things that truly align with our mission and purpose in life. A clear example of this practice in everyday life could be work. If you find yourself constantly accepting extra tasks or commitments that are not aligned with your main goals, you are likely to feel exhausted and unfulfilled. Learning to say no to those requests that do not add value or that you simply cannot take on will allow you to focus your efforts on what truly brings you closer to your goals. Moreover, knowing how to say no is also essential for setting healthy boundaries in relationships. Often we fear disappointing others or causing conflict, but the Stoics teach us that saying no firmly and respectfully is a form of self-respect. By setting clear boundaries, we not only protect ourselves, but also help others understand our priorities and needs. A practical technique to start saying no is prior reflection. Before accepting any new request or commitment, take a moment to reflect. Does this bring me closer to my goals? Is it something I truly want to do? If the answer is no, it is completely valid to politely decline. Sometimes a simple, "Sorry, I can't at the moment," is enough to reject a request without feeling guilty. Remember that your time and energy are limited. Learning to say no will help you be more intentional with how you invest them and allow you to live according to what truly matters. You do not need to please everyone or accept every opportunity that comes your way. True wisdom lies in being selective and putting your energy where it will truly make a difference. We've gone through some of the most powerful lessons in Stoicism, a philosophy that, although ancient, remains surprisingly relevant to our modern life. Throughout these lessons, we've learned that we cannot control what happens around us, but we can control how we respond to it. We've seen that true inner peace comes from within, and that our actions, thoughts, and decisions have a profound impact on our well-being. Stoicism is not about denying the difficulties of life or expecting perfection, but about learning to navigate adversity with serenity and strength. Saying no when necessary, acting without expecting perfect results, and accepting our emotions without letting them control us are just a few of the practices that can transform our lives. At the end of the day, it's about living intentionally, owning our reactions, and being at peace with what we cannot change. If you integrate these lessons into your life, you'll realize that difficulties are not as fearful as they seem. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow and strengthen your character. And remember, you don't have to do it all on your own. The Stoic path is a daily practice, and little by little, with discipline and perseverance, you will begin to see profound changes in your life. So, the next time you face a difficult situation, pause for a moment, breathe, and reflect on what the great Stoic philosophers taught us. True wisdom lies in how we respond to life, not in what life brings us. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe, share it, and leave your comments. I am sure many more people can benefit from these powerful teachings. Remember, you have the power to change your life, and the first step is simply deciding to begin.